Rampant glintstone abuse plagues the lands between. What is this mystical magic rock that everyone seems to love? Is it addictive, and what are the side effects? Can you smoke it? And most importantly, should we legalize glintstone? But first, to understand the deal with glintstone and whether we should legalize it, we have to understand the deal with Raya Lucaria Academy. Raya Lucaria Academy is the seat of glintstone magic. It's full of nerds that will beat you to death with a book and banish you to some random rundown church. When the shattering took place, the entirety of Raya Lucaria isolated itself from the lands between. They didn't want to interfere with the shattering because they only care about glintstone. They are addicted to the stuff. Kind of sounds like real life. This is why you need to get a bus pass off a dead guy in order to get into the academy, and also why they all shoot you on sight. When you first enter Raya Lucaria Academy, you are shown this very grand entrance. It's beautiful and sets your expectations very high. It is easy to believe that Raya Lucaria is an esteemed Ivy League educational institution. It's easy to imagine silly frat shenanigans taking place here. However, once you pass the first sight of grace, you are immediately thrust into the seedy underbelly of the academy. This is where the cookie crumbles. Throughout this lower level, you will find a massive amount of zombies. These are the students with early morning classes. This putrid underbelly of the academy shows you that this is not your average Hogwarts, but it actually gets worse. It turns out this is a war crime academy. The enforcing arm of Raya Lucaria Academy are the Cuckoo Knights. They come in two variations, guys and cooler guys. Both variations commit war crimes. The description of Raya Lucaria Soldier Ashes states, they were given free rein by the academy to wage war as they pleased, and they were infamous for their rapacious ways. The word rapacious basically means to take people's lunch money with force. The nerds at Raya Lucaria Academy didn't care about this, of course, because they are literally living in a towering isolated castle. It has everything they want: crabs, zombies, and jar guys. They never need to leave the safety of the walls, so they basically left the Cuckoo Knights unchecked to commit their war crimes, which was probably a bad idea. However, eventually the nerds at Raya Lucaria decided to rebel against the leaders of the academy, which was the Carian royal family, led by Renala. That's why she's locked up in her boss room, so they sent the rapacious Cuckoo Knights to carve them up. Fortunately, the Carian Knights are actually really cool. They do cool stuff like visiting Make-A-Wish kids. In fact, they are so cool that even though there are less than 20 Carian Knights, they still managed to fight off the Cuckoo Knights at Caria Manor. And so the Cuckoo Knights fell in battle. Man, those guys sucked. They weren't the only war crime dudes welcome at the academy. At the very bottom of the academy, down its darkest hole, is an abductor virgin. These enemies are really annoying, but this one is special. If you die to its friendly hug move, you get transported to Volcano Manor. This is actually really hard to do if you have the power of New Game Plus. My advice is to just stand here with a good shield, because the only attack that can get you with a shield up is the friendly hug move. The interesting part about this is that the area it takes you to is actually a secret part of Volcano Manor that you can only reach through this method. It leads through to a secret site of grace with a hole in the ground that you can bust open for a secret boss fight. This boss fight was really annoying. Their attacks have pretty good range, and they stun you. The boss fight ends with you overlooking Copenhagen. It's a very cool secret that I feel most people might overlook, because when you hear about this teleport, you might just assume that it takes you to a part of Volcano Manor that is normally accessible, and not bother doing it, but it's still absolutely worth it. Now, how exactly does this relate to Raya Lucaria's war crimes? Well, you can find an Omenkiller in Volcano Manor who is overseeing the torture of Albinaurics. This is really rude. Usually they just kill omens, like Morgott. The Omenkillers were also responsible for the attack on the Albinauric village in Liurnia. They marched through the entire town and killed them all. Most likely to find part of the Halig Tree secret medallion, or because they just hate Albinaurics. Now, what does all of this Omenkiller business have have to do with Raya Lucaria Academy? Well, Ranni and Rykard did collude when it came to the Night of the Black Knives, and Ranni is part of the Carian royal family which oversaw Raya Lucaria. So it's not too much of a stretch to say that the abductor enemy at the bottom of the academy was put there as a result of some kind of partnership with Volcano Manor. This means that Ranni endorses the Albinauric torture that occurred at Volcano Manor and condones the massacre that the Omenkillers perpetrated at the village. Yes, the chick you marry at the end of the game basically facilitated war crimes. Now that we know everything about the war crime stuff that Raya Lucaria perpetrated, what about the fun science and magic stuff they did? Raya Lucaria heavily invested in ball research. In fact, they actually provide a tech demo of a ball for you to enjoy.
Hello?
However, when compared to Noxtella, they are simply lacking in the ball department. The schools of Glintstone study are referred to as a Conspectus. There are a few of them, and portraits of their founders can be found in the debate parlor. You will notice that the Glintstone crowns that you can find in-game each correspond to one of the nerds in the pictures. The Lazuli Conspectus studied Carian sorceries, which view the moon as equal to the stars. The Twin Sage Conspectus were the elites of the academy, permitted to study and excel in sorceries of all kinds. The Carolus Conspectus was created by Azur. You might know him as that dead guy you randomly find on the side of the road. They study the comets. The Olivinius Conspectus studies meteors and was created by Lusat. Lusat is the other dead guy. He is the one with the big ball. The Hymer and Hierodus Conspectus were both excluded from the debate parlor portraits, so I will also exclude them from this video. Yes, Raya Lucaria also has workplace harassment. The last Glintstone crown is the most interesting. It doesn't seem to correspond to a Conspectus and was given to Sellen because she is really smart. However, because she was so smart, she was kicked out of Raya Lucaria and branded a witch. It goes to show how insecure these Raya Lucaria nerds really are. Maybe her Conspectus was to do with the primeval current, and this was removed when she was kicked out. You might notice that all of these crowns have Glintstone growing out of them. It's a bit hard to understand why this occurs and what its purpose is, but through Sellen's questline it is all made clear. You probably know Sellen from fan art, or that random person you found tied up in some basement, or both. She is the only Conspectus founded that you really get to interact with in the game. There are two more, but you'll see that they aren't exactly all there physically and mentally. When you first find her in this dodgy ass basement, you can become her student, even if your character is really dumb.
Well, your aptitude does appear passable.
And can't even cast a single spell. For most of the game, she will just stand here. That is, until you get to a certain spot in Mount Gelmir. At this side of Grace, you can find Azur. He has been completely overcome by his addiction to that good. When you interact with him, he just nods off. You then get that spell everyone uses to one-shot bosses. After this, when you return to Sellen, she has something to say.
Ah, then you have seen Master Azur, a stern judge of men. But he must have seen something in you.
Sellen then explains why she was exiled from Raya Lucaria.
If you recall, I was exiled from the Academy of Raya Lucaria.
It was because she attempted to restore the primeval current of Glintstone sorcery. Whatever that means. In the same conversation, she also blows some smoke up her ass.
You must have a fabulous teacher.
You were then tasked by her to find Lusat. Sellen tells you that he probably returned to his home, which is Celia. However, he isn't here. There's just some puzzle you have to do where you ignite all of the fires. There is also a boss fight in the town, and Lusat's staff is a reward. However, he is nowhere around here. He is actually down the road in Dragonbarrow. The place is called Celia Hideaway, but it's nowhere near Celia. I can't believe From Software would do this to us. This has the same energy as being told to find the fifth rock from the left turn during the first ride down the road in Morrowind. You find him down an optional path in the dungeon in a similar state to Azur. It's actually really sad. But you get a free sorcery. I mean, you can't use it because your character is really dumb, but it's still nice. Both the Comet Azur and Stars of Ruin sorceries hint at why Azur and Lusat may have left Raya Lucaria. They both seem to have resulted from Azur and Lusat looking into the primeval current. Therefore, they were most likely exiled exiled for a similar reason to Sellen, because for whatever reason, the higher-ups at the academy didn't want to acknowledge the link between Glintstone and the Outer Gods. You can then return to Sellen. She says that she is truly pleased to have you as an apprentice. This was a very touching moment in my playthrough. I cried. Using this knowledge we have delivered to her, Sellen proceeds to unveil the secrets of Glintstone once and for all. Right? Nope, she tells us that this whole time she has been a Force ghost, and that she needs us to deliver her essence to another body. That sounds really inappropriate, but I needed to find out the secrets of Glintstone, so I did as she asked. I visited her real body chained up in the Weeping Peninsula. She gave me her essence, which sounds really suspect, but I assure you it was all above board. Before I left, I decided to reload the area, and naturally I arrived to find her body murdered by some guy. Excellent, that's really great. Thank you, Jerren. Fortunately, Seluvis came in clutch. In a previous video, I detailed his slave clone dungeon. Turns out he liked Sellen enough to make a puppet of her, so I just shoved her essence into that one. She did her usual thing where she thanks me for helping her and so on. And like usual, she didn't share the secrets of Glintstone. Continuing on through her quest, she makes her way to the top of Raya Lucaria. It is here you can choose to help her or Jerren in their battle. After ganging up on poor Jerren, you can talk to her again. And again, she just says some really nice stuff to you.
If you fail to claim your throne, you can always pay me a visit. Oh, don't fret. Even my dullest pupils will always have a place here.
This is great if you are really sad and broken inside, but it's absolutely useless if you are trying to find out what the deal is with Glintstone. Now that her entire questline is complete, there is only one thing left to do: reload the area. And then she turns into a ball. Yeah, Sellen doesn't really tell us anything about Glintstone other than that it can turn you into a ball.
My friend,
Thank you so much, Sellen. This is actually kind of interesting though, because what I think happened here is that she merged with Azur and Lusat into a ball, which is honestly kind of weird. Earlier she mentions bringing the bodies of Azur and Lusat to the academy, so she can continue to study the primeval current. We also know that sorcerers can live after death. Due to what we did with her essence, therefore I assume that she did something with the essence of Azur and Lusat, and it resulted in a ball. This process is somewhat detailed in the description of the Graven School Talisman. I don't want to get too descriptive, but it sounds like a Mass Effect Fade to Black Bane cutscene. This process is most likely what got her kicked out of the academy in the first place. We know that she was accused of doing it to other sorcerers because of Thops' dialogue, so maybe she founded the Graven Conspectus, and the evidence was destroyed when she was kicked out. Now that we know Glintstone comes from the stars, what exactly does this mean? What exactly is the deal with Glintstone? Well, basically, it is aliens. All of the Outer Gods in Elden Ring are these unknowable cosmic forces that reside in the stars above, and Glintstone is the product of these very same stars. You have probably encountered the falling star beast, which fell from the stars. You may have also encountered Estelle, natural born of the void, which shares some similarities with the falling star beast. The most obvious similarity is the big rock in its skull and the pincers. Also, they are both SoundCloud rappers. It's safe to assume that Estelle is some kind of evolution of the falling star beast, and that the rock in its skull is Glintstone, used to store its essence just like Sellen and the other sorcerers. Therefore, Glintstone is most likely a living rock. It's basically Dwayne. You can see a similar orb as a part of Lusat. The Glintstone has merged with his brain, and the result was this eye growing out of his skull. Groovy. It is worth mentioning that it has a similar pattern when compared to the rock in Estelle and the falling star beast. Now, even though the Outer Gods are explicitly from space, you might be wondering about the gods native to the lands between, like Marika or the Greater Will. Are they aliens too? The answer to that question lies with Raya Lucaria. It is safe to say that Raya Lucaria was responsible for many crimes, that the sway Glintstone held over them was for the worst. However, there is one ultimate trespass committed by Raya Lucaria, one ultimate and final crime, the biggest crime of them all. Early on in your exploration of Liurnia, you probably found this kindly young man, Thops. He asks you for a few dollars so he can buy a bus pass.
Well, bless you, bless you.
Thops can teach you sorceries, but he says that he doesn't know any good ones. It turns out they no longer sell Raya Lucaria bus passes. He asks you to give one to him if you find a spare. This bus pass can be found along the rooftops of Raya Lucaria. Upon giving it to him, he becomes really happy.
Are you certain you're willing to give your Glintstone key to me? My, oh my. Thank you. Thank you dearly. Now I can go back to the academy to resume my study of Glintstone sorceries. And the very stars.
However, like any From Software questline, the moment you give them what they want, they die. Now ordinarily, an Elden Ring lore guy like myself would slap a prepare to cry on this and move on to the next dead NPC. However, Thops is different. On his dead body is a sorcery, the most important sorcery in the game, Thops's barrier. It creates a barrier, which is honestly kind of boring, but this barrier reflects sorceries and incantations. The description hints at the importance of this sorcery, but what exactly does this mean? It means that incantations and sorceries are basically the same thing. They are both descended from Glintstone. However, incantations are supposed to be a product of the Erd Tree, the Elden Beast, and the Greater Will. This means that the Greater Will is also an outer god. Explicit evidence of this can be found in the description of the Elden Star's incantation, where it is stated that the Greater Will sent a star bearing the Elden Beast down into the lands between. Therefore, Thops is the true prepare to cry. He was kicked out of Raya Lucaria just like Sellen. Both had made discoveries that the conservative Raya Lucarian leadership did not want to publicly acknowledge, but only one of them had a name as cool as Thops. I'm pretty sure I absolutely butchered the pronunciation of some of the names in this video. For that, I don't apologize. There are some things that I did not include in this video because it would have made it too long, such as more details about the other outer gods. I will probably discuss these topics in their own video. However, there is one last piece of lore related to Thops. In his dying breath, there is only one thing Thops wanted: for you to subscribe to my channel. It would look great on your resume.